Welcome back to Latino Motion. Once again here with Miguel Aban, Vice President of Multicultural Banking at Bryn Mawr Trust. And we talked about the non-traditional banking or credit. Let's talk about some more of the gap when it comes to banking, and there's this gap between the Latino community and financial institutions. What are some other factors that lead to that gap?
The language barrier and the cultural barrier are very crucial, I believe. We come from a society that makes us distrust banks, financial institutions, because in our governments, when something is happening in our governments, and they used to tend to freeze our bank accounts. It's what it is. So the experience is kind of one of the things, the bad experience that we had in our countries. So that lack of trust and the lack of knowledge of the culture by financial institutions of how the Latinos, a lot of people believe that we're homogeneous. We're gonna offer something to all the Latinos because they're all the same. The Latinos are not the same. We're very different. You know, somebody from Peru, from Chile is not the same as somebody from Puerto Rico or Mexico. You know, so different ways of how you communicate.
Well, I want to talk about you're obviously very much aware of the gap that exists, and happy to say that Bryn Mawr Trust is also aware of that, because obviously they have a person such as yourself, a Latino, who's in charge of multicultural banking, very important role. What more can banks do to help build that trust?
A bank needs to be committed. Without the commitment of the entire bank and the entire team, and you start from the CEO and from the board of directors, there's got to be a commitment of why we want to help the minorities, not necessarily because we need to meet our CRA requirements, which is very different from wanting to help the underserved. You know, there is a big misconception between CRA and why banks want to do something. In our case, I'm very honored that I was appointed to do this role for the right reasons. We do believe that we need to help the Latino community and all the diverse communities because they're very underserved.
I want to point out one thing that your bank does differently that perhaps some other banks aren't doing. That's you do have an advisory board for multicultural banking. Tell me about that.
We created a business plan. I was in charge of actually creating a business plan last year, and one of the important parts of the business was to get advice from the leaders in the communities. I'm not a one-man show. I know banking and I know the marketing and the culture, yes, but it is bigger than that. How do we do that? Let's create a multicultural advisory board, which is actually comprised of 11 individuals that are key leaders in their own communities. I have CEOs of nonprofits, lawyers. So they come to our meetings and they say, this is what we're seeing in the communities. Can you do that?
That's a great form of input to something that you have to measure up against. It's very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. I want to take a quick break, but we're going to continue this discussion. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.